Hello and welcome to my first tutorial about how to write a narrative. Now, I hope I can help you improve your writing skills with this tutorial. Now, telling stories is common in any language. Think of different situations in which you might tell a story in everyday life. I'm sure you can come up with different ideas. For example, talking about last weekend to a friend, giving details about something that happened during a job interview, or telling colleagues about what happened on a school trip, or simply relating information about your family to your children. I'm sure there are many situations in which you tell stories. Okay, let's see how we can improve it both when writing or speaking. In case these situations and many other situations provide information about something that happened in the past. Okay, let's see how we can improve these stories. Okay, to help your audience understand, you should link your ideas together. One of the most important ways to link ideas is to sequence them. Okay, let's see how can we sequence ideas together. For example, I can help you with this tutorial. If you follow the examples, you can test your skills with the quiz, and finally you can check your understanding with the answers in the after the test. Okay, let's see story. For example, a conference in Chicago. I visited Chicago to attend a business conference. I decided to visit the Art Institute of Chicago. My flight was delayed. The airline lost my luggage and I had to wait for 2 hours at the airport. They tracked it down. The luggage had been set aside and forgotten. These are simple sentences just joined together by a full stop. That's no good for your level. So let's see how can we improve the text. Think about it, okay? I know you know how to do it, but let's do it together this time. Let's see how can we improve the narrative, this first part of the narrative. We can say, for example, last week I visited Chicago to attend a business conference. While I was there, I decided to visit the Art Institute of Chicago. To start off, my flight was delayed. Next, the airline lost my luggage, so I had to wait for 2 hours at the airport while they tracked it down. Unexpectedly, the luggage had been set aside and forgotten. So as you can see, this is much better than the previous version of the story. Let's see. Shall we continue with the story? First, remember, we'll have the ideas in a simple way, and then we'll try to improve it by using sequencers, okay? Right, second part of the story. They found my luggage, I found a taxi and rode into town. The driver told me about his last visit to the Art Institute. I arrived safely. Everything began to go smoothly. The business conference was very interesting and I thoroughly enjoyed my visit to the institute. Again, simple sentences joined by a full stop. That's no good when writing. We need to use sequencers. For example, as soon as they found my luggage, I found a taxi and rode into town. During the ride into town, the driver told me about his last visit to the Art Institute. After I had arrived safely, everything began to go smoothly. The business conference was very interesting and I thoroughly enjoyed my visit to the institute. Much better, don't you think so? Right? Let's see the next part of the story. I caught my flight back to Seattle. Everything went smoothly. I arrived home to kiss my daughter goodnight. This should be the end of the story, but there is no real indication that this is the end of the story. So let's see how we can improve this, okay? Finally, I caught my flight back to Seattle. Luckily, everything went smoothly. I arrived home just in time to kiss my daughter goodnight. Can you see? Finally, luckily, just in time. These are sequencing steps. So let's see what happened in the previous story, step by step. Sequencing refers to the order in which events happened. Let's see which are some of the most common ways to sequence when writing or speaking, right? Let's see how can we improve it. You can begin your stories by using some of these expressions. For example, first of all, to start off with, initially, to begin with. Remember, a comma after these expressions should be used. To begin your stories, some examples can be: to begin with, I began my education in London, and so on and so forth, okay? To continue the stories, we can use some expressions such as then, after that, next, immediately, and as soon as or when. In case we use as soon as or when, we should use a clause after that, a full clause. It implies using a past simple after the time expression, and commas after immediately, next, and so on. Some examples: after that, we knew that there would be no problem. Next, we decided on our strategy, and so on. Now, in case you need to interrupt or add new element to the story, you can use suddenly or unexpectedly followed by a comma. This gives somewhat a touch of surprise. For example, suddenly a child burst into the room with a note for Miss Smith. Unexpectedly, the people in the room didn't agree with the mayor. There is a touch of surprise, after all, when we use suddenly or unexpectedly, but it improves our story. Now, in case there are some events happening at the same time, we can use while or as. Remember that in this case, we should use a clause after these expressions, and the verb should be in the past. There are different kinds of past tenses. For example, while I was giving, this past continuous, the audience asked, or both in the past, Jennifer told her story as I prepared dinner, or right, you can follow the examples. Now, in case we want to use during, it should be followed by a noun. For example, during the meeting or during the presentation. To finish the story, we could use expressions such as finally, in the end, or eventually, followed by a comma. For example, finally, I flew to London for my meeting with Jack, or in the end, he decided to postpone the project, or eventually, we became tired and returned home. Right, now it's your turn, right? Are you ready for a quiz? I'll leave you to it, and I'm sure you will be lucky. It's a good idea if you press pause and you take your time to fill in all the gaps from 1 to 9 using some of the sequencers we have been watching in this tutorial. These are only some suggested answers. As you can see, in some cases more than one is possible. Right? I hope it's been a great tutorial for you. And